I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the 88th episode of It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club. Today we will have an interview with John Glatt, who is the author of the book, The Family Next Door.
John Glatt is an investigative journalist with more than 30 years' experience. In the last 14 years, he has written 19 true crime books and 4 biographies. With more than 1 million books currently in print all over the world, Glatt is acknowledged to be one of the best true crime writers working today. A native of London, England, Glatt left school at 16 and worked in a variety of jobs, including tea-boy and messenger, before joining a small weekly newspaper outside London, where he honed the keen news sense. Over the next few years, he freelanced for many national English newspapers, including the Daily Express, the Sunday People, the Daily Mail, and Women's Magazine. Over the years, Glatt has appeared on scores of television and radio programs all over the world, including Dateline, NBC, Discovery ID, Fox News, BBC World, and A&E Biography. He and his jewelry designer wife, Gail, divide their time between New York City and Catskills Mountains and London.
In The Family Next Door, on January 14, 2018, a 17-year-old girl climbed out of the window of her Perris, California home and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. Struggling to stay calm, she told the operator that she and her 12 siblings, ranging in age from 2 to 29, were being abused by their parents. When the dispatcher asked for her address, the girl hesitated. "I've never been out," she stammered. To their family, neighbors, and online friends, Louise and David Turpin presented a picture of domestic bliss. But what the police discovered when they entered the Turpin family home would eclipse the most shocking child abuse cases in history. In the first major account of the case, investigative journalist and author John Glatt delves into the disturbing details and recounts the bravery of the 13 siblings in the face of unimaginable horror. Welcome, John. We would like to welcome John Glatt to our program. He is the author of the book, The Family Next Door. Welcome, John.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Louise Turpin was sexually assaulted by her grandfather. Do you think she was the instigator of the abuse of the children?
Well, actually, I think it was a combination of the two. I mean, right at the beginning, David Turpin was about 7 years older than her. They used to boast to Louise's sister Elizabeth that David Turpin first fancied her when he met Louise when she was 10. But it's a bit nebulous whether he ever kind of sexually assaulted Louise when she was underage, when she was growing up, because their families were very close together. That's always been kind of hidden. So I think they both play into each other, actually, as far as that's concerned.
Well, doesn't California's law for homeschooled children call for an audit of the curriculum? Why wasn't any home visitation done and this abuse reported earlier?
Well, actually, I mean, I think it's a little more complicated than that. California homeschooling law calls for nothing except a fire marshal to inspect the school once a year. Nothing about curriculum. They fill in a form online and they just say how many pupils they've got, whether it's religiously orientated, what grade the pupils are in. There's absolutely no checks and balances there whatsoever. In fact, a fire marshal by law should have come round to inspect the school each year. This was, of course, not done. If it had been, think these poor Turpin children would have been found much earlier. And in fact, when I was researching the book, I spoke to a local congressman who was trying to get this changed in law, but he was having a great deal of opposition from homeschooling groups who don't want that kind of scrutiny whatsoever. I mean, there was nothing really to monitor what was going on inside the house.
That's bizarre. And
It really is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and I just don't get why the homeschooling community would be so opposed to that.
Because they feel they're threatening their privacy, and it's taking away their statutory rights to homeschool. They don't want interference. And this congressman, he put the bill in and it got overturned because it was voted out in California.
Well, going back to when they lived in Texas, you can understand how what was going on could be missed because their houses were not all that close together. But in California, the house was within 10 yards of their neighbor's house. How did they fly under the radar for so long?
Well, I did spend some time in California talking to neighbors and whatever. None of the neighbors realized that there were 13 children in there. Louise would bring them out a couple at a time, the older ones, usually to go shopping with her and to go to various events. Kind of at Christmas, they'd have competitions and she would bring the kids out there. They only saw like 2 or 3 at a time. They never realized there was that many children in there. Also, I mean, the children may come out to go to the mailbox once a day with the father. The neighbors all felt terrible about it, and very, very upset that they hadn't known about it. And I mean, I think there's a certain thing where people don't want to kind of spy on their neighbors and tell tales. So I think they wanted to keep them to themselves quite a bit.
It's a sad statement, but I think it's very true. Now, in your opinion, do you think that neighbors and other responsible adults who witness things like the children's decreased weight and body odor should bear some responsibility?
Well, one would think so. I mean, the elder boy Joshua, his mother enrolled him in school. He was taking courses at night with other children, and they would remark about how thin he was and pale. I think they had some food in one night around the holidays, and he was just ravenous. And a couple of the children in his class said he just would not stop eating. So you would have thought that somebody would have asked questions. I mean, but nobody ever seems to after the fact. When people came around there afterwards, it was very easy to say, oh yes, he looked really, really malnourished and whatever, but nobody did anything at the time.
Do you know if any of the children suffer from physical ailment due to starvation or abuse?
Oh, very much. When they escaped, the children were examined. They were horribly physically malnourished. They had certain illnesses because they'd been vitamin deprivation. They were stunted. They had the bodies of, much younger children than they were because they had been severely malnourished. And mentally, too, they were very impaired there because, they hadn't grown up with other children or anything. They had no kind of social thing whatsoever when they were growing up. I think they were very, very bad condition, in fact.
Have you had the opportunity to meet anyone in the family?
No, unfortunately, nobody has. I think they're in such a bad condition that they've in fact been kept in either foster homes for the younger children or the older ones have got their own kind of house that they're living in. They're under a lot of secrecy and whatever. And the only time they ever came out, in fact, was at the sentencing of Louise and David, their parents, where the 2 eldest ones, Jennifer and Josh, actually spoke. They weren't shown on camera, but that's the only time they've ever appeared in public. And I've done several other books about people that have been imprisoned in this situation for a number of years, and this is the only time where they haven't come out after a certain amount of time and given interviews or talked about what happened. And I think it's only because they must be still recovering from their ordeal and what happened.
Other than the obvious question of why, what is the first question you would ask David or Louise Turpin?
Well, I think that would probably be it. How could any human being possibly do this to your children or to anybody? To keep your children starved for their complete lives and then chain them up and imprison them like that is totally inhumane. David cried at the sentencing. I think he may feel what has happened now. I think while it was going on. He was quite happy to go out to work. He had a very good job in the aerospace industry. He went out every day and he left his children there, imprisoned, and chained up. So, I would ask them how any human being could do that.
Besides your book, The Family Next Door, you've done a couple of other books about parents who torture and even kill their own children. Are there any similarities in the psychology that can be determined?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that, and it's something I'm not really versed in, but it just seems just a strange phenomenon that people can do this to other people. It's very hard to explain, I think.
The Turpin family's story is certainly horrific, but it seems hopeful for the children's future. Will you be able to, or do you have any interest in writing any updates about them?
Well, I would certainly like to update the book, in future editions. It's doing pretty well, so hopefully there may be reprints or whatever. I'd like to monitor what's going on. It's a closely guarded secret how their progress is. We've been told that some of them are taking college courses and are going back out into the world, to mix with other children. They've never given an interview or made themselves accessible yet, and maybe this will change.
Really wish the best for all of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, you have written over 25 true crime books. Other than The Family Next Door, what case sticks with you the most?
Well, I think probably the Ariel Castro Cleveland abduction case. My book, The Lost Girls, was about that. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. And that was a really haunting case of these 3 girls that were imprisoned by Ariel Castro for over a decade. And I think that really stuck with me. And especially Michelle Knight, who triumphantly came out after the escape, and she's reasserted herself into the world. She's a musician. She got married. She's an incredible person and very, very strong. Quite an amazing person.
True crime is very popular with TV and podcasts and books. Why do you think the average person is so curious about true crime?
Well, I can only think that they like to kind of vicariously explore other people's horrific lives, things that happen, which you really don't think ever will. And you can basically, they can sit there in the comfort of their armchair and watch it on television or hear your podcast and whatever, and put themselves into this horrific world which they know they will never have to enter. So I think there's a bit of that, actually.
I kind of have a different take on it. Like, if I go in the ocean, I am afraid of sharks, so I want to know about sharks. And there's killers out in the world, so I want to know what they're thinking so I can hopefully avoid them like I avoid a shark.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it. The book I'm doing at the moment, which is about the Christopher Watts case in Colorado, I'm sure you've read about it, the guy that killed his pregnant wife, Shanann, and 2 lovely daughters. Everybody thought he was like the exemplary father, the perfect husband. There was like nothing to, show that he would do anything like that. So sometimes that shark can be really kind of, he can be the perfect guy next door and you wouldn't know. I think that maybe is another part of the true crime that makes it very interesting.
Very true.
When does that book come out?
I'm not sure, probably next summer. I'm still working on it.
Please let our listeners know what your website is so they can keep up with you.
Absolutely. My website is johnglatt.com. That's JOHNGLATT.com. It has all my books on it. It has a few videos, a few interviews, and if people want to follow what I'm doing now.
Okay, great. We will share that with our listeners on our show notes and be sure to let everyone know.
Well, John, when your book comes out next summer, definitely let us know, and maybe we can have you back on.
That'd be terrific. I'll do that.
Well, John, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening.
My pleasure.
We very much enjoyed this book and look forward to any of your other books.
Thank you very much, and I'll keep in touch.
All right.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you, John. Goodbye.
Bye.
It's always difficult when you read a book when it's crimes against children. It was a very disturbing read, but I feel an important read.
Well, they weren't all children. One of them was close to 30
But
years
they were
old.
children because they had children's mentality.
I don't even know if you can call it a children's mentality. Well, what continues to bother me about this situation, not that a number of things don't bother me, the homeschooling situation in California just does not seem adequate.
I agree. They should have some kind of inspection or curriculum or something that has to be
Standardized.
right.
I would